Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. Well, if you want to get the bad game out of the way, it's best to do it when you have your first away game of the season. And I know that's something that we're not accustomed to, seeing the Union having a stinker the first away game of the season, because I think we got spoiled with how the Union played last season on the road, going 7-5-5, winning the first away game of the season in Montreal by a score of 2-1. And they go down to Miami, and we all know, don't play great, lose 2-0. And I know there's a lot of people on social media that are overreacting, a lot of people that are scared what's going to happen. People are nervous what's going to happen Tuesday night down in El Salvador against Alianza in the CONCACAF Champions League. But look, I don't think it's time to overreact. We still have 34 games left in the MLS season. And I think what Saturday night came down to was the Philadelphia Union having the mindset on Tuesday night's match in the CONCACAF Champions League. And what makes it worse is the Union started their regular starting 11, which caught me by surprise, and I'm sure it caught a lot of you guys by surprise too. And we'll talk about that here in a bit. But it wasn't the Union's best performance. Will we see every game on the road be like that? Absolutely not. Will we see the Union blow teams out a lot like we saw last season? Probably not. I think people, and this is the harsh reality, right? Yes, the Union got better on paper, bringing in better players than they had last season on the roster. But I think some people just need to lose the mentality, and this goes to the players too, I'm sure, that what they did last season does not matter. It's a new season. Other teams got better. You know, the Union aren't going to blow teams out multiple times like they did last season. And I think part of that, because last season was fun, and it was fun watching the Union just break multiple records. And it sucks that the Union, after all that success they had in the regular season, they couldn't end the season off in a trophy. And I think that part hurts, right? But to expect 2023 to be the same as 2022 is insane, in my opinion. Because what we're basing it off of is bringing back the same roster, bringing back better players. And I know, I said all of that in my season predictions. But what we did in 2022, I think we need to forget about that. It's a new season. And I think some people are flipping out a little too much on social media. But we're going to go ahead and talk about the news. We're going to go ahead and talk about that Inter Miami versus Philadelphia Union match. We're going to go ahead and review keys to the game, 3 stars, goal breakdown. Blunder of the week is coming back because a lot of you guys reached out to me and said you want Blunder of the week to continue this season. So we do have a Blunder of the week to talk about with you guys. And then we have a new segment that we're going to try out where Renee Turner, a great friend of mine, reached out and said, yeah, I have a segment that you should try out. And so we'll see how it goes. We'll talk about that here a little bit later. If it's something you guys want me to continue to talk about, we'll talk about it. If it's something you guys don't want me to continue to do going forward, then please definitely reach out about that as well. But without further ado, let's get straight into the news. All right, so there's only one news segment that I thought was newsworthy to bring up. And we did talk about that a little bit last episode with Franco. But that is team of the match day, match day 1. And it's going to be hard, in my opinion, not to call it team of the week because I'm so accustomed to calling it team of the week, but MLS switches it to team of the match day. And so 2 Philadelphia Union players were included in the starting 11 for team of the match day, with Julian Kranza and Daniel Gazlag both getting into the starting 11, with Julian Kranza's 2 goals against Columbus, Daniel Gazag's 2 goals, 2 assists against Columbus. When we look at the rest of the starting 11 for team of the match day 1, we have Drake Callender, goalkeeper from Inter Miami, in there for keeping the clean sheet against CF Montreal. We have Christoph, also the center back from Inter Miami in team of the match day. Walker Zimmerman of Nashville and Henry Kessler from New England Revolution. All three of those defenders got in because of their goals in match day 1. Daniel Gazdag, like I said, Wobodo from FC Cincinnati for his goal. We have Edward Lowen and Thiago Almeida from Atlanta United for his 2 goals against San Jose. Lowen is from St. Louis City. And then the 3 forwards were Jordan Morris for his 2 goals. Julian Kranza, like I mentioned, his 2 goals. And then Teddy KDP from DC United for his game-winning goal for DC United over Toronto FC. And I feel good about 8 of the 11 of these players I got into match day 1 because I was talking with some people and they're like, I wonder who's going to get into Team of the Week, we were calling it, but I guess now we got to call it match day 1. And yeah, I got 8 of the 11 players correct, so I do feel proud of myself for that. And I agree with just the other 3 players that I didn't include for my team. So hopefully, like we mentioned with Franco Panizo, hopefully MLS gets it right for match day 2. But there's nothing else to talk about for the news, so we'll go straight into that Inter Miami versus Philadelphia Union game, which we all know the Union lose that game 2-0. And like I said, a little bit shocked that the Union didn't rotate their squad. I'm not sure about you guys, but it really was shocking to see Jim Curtin run out the same starting 11 as he did last weekend against Columbus. I thought this would be the game you rest guys in, and then you play your regular starting 11 versus Alianza on Tuesday in the Champions League. And Jim Curtin said after the match against Inter Miami that we'll probably have to rotate the squad against Alianza. I thought maybe you would run 3 in the back against Miami, give them something they've never seen before, and then you go from there. I think Jim Curtin was making a statement by starting his regular 11. I think that was Jim Curtin telling everyone just how important it is to get points early on in the season. And it's unfortunate that the Union didn't get any with starting their starting 11. And I think that's why it hurts Union fans a little bit, why we saw some overreactions, because people were going in with the mindset that we're probably going to rotate. And that did not happen. We started our best 11 players. And we lose 2-0. And all credit goes to Miami. No excuses. The Union lost. The Union got to hand it to them. And I think the fans were fantastic coming through the broadcast, listening to people talk about the atmosphere in the post-game press conference. Jim Curtin talked about how the atmosphere was fantastic in Miami. So, again, credit has to go to Miami. I mean, look, factually, it's correct that Miami beat the 2 teams that were on top of the Eastern Conference last year. Will Montreal be as good as they were last season? Probably not, with all the turnover that they had. But I think it's expected that the Union will be one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, and the Union have never lost in Miami. Now, granted, they've only played 2 games down in Miami, and they finally lose. They lose to not a full strength Inter Miami team with Leo Campana not playing. They were missing some forwards, and so they had to do things a little bit differently than what they normally would have done. And because of that, I think this was a statement win from Inter Miami. And I know Phil Neville after the game said, I'm not here to say this is the best team I've ever had. I think it's way too early, blah, 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 blah. But you guys heard me, if you listened to my appearance on the Battered Herons podcast, I was full of praise for Phil Neville and this Miami team. And for you Union fans that might not watch a ton of Miami, you saw that Saturday night when I was talking about it on that podcast that Miami's building a team. They're not building around a superstar. They're building a team. Pizarro, Mota, Gregore, Calendar, I thought they were all excellent on the night. Miami, they came out and set a fast tempo early on in this game, which I think caught the Union by surprise. I mean, you saw it 20 seconds into the game when Miami almost scored, but Dorian Martinez, they were slow to shutting down Mota when he received the pass. Passed it to Pizarro. Nobody closed down Pizarro. That was supposed to be Bizo on Pizarro, but he's slow to react out of position. So you have Jack Elliott now having to leave Joseph Martinez and stepping to the ball. And credit to Jack Elliott, because Pizarro makes the right pass to Joseph Martinez once Jack Elliott steps, and Jack Elliott's able to get himself back in position and shut that down and have it go out for a Miami corner kick. But I think this game, what was going to happen, was very telling early on once we saw the Union were just caught sleeping. And if those 20 seconds weren't enough to convince you what kind of game this was, I mean, all you have to do is look 19 minutes into the game, and the Union had already given up 4 corners to that point. They were slow to react to everything, and sure, part of that might be because of the heat, but I don't think that's an excuse. It shouldn't be an excuse. Yes, the environment played a factor, but you can't say, oh, we only lost this game because of the heat. No, you don't make excuses like that. Miami were the better team on the night, and Miami deserved all 3 points. They didn't, get lucky. They won convincingly, in my opinion. And the Union could have lost by more goals than they lost by. I mean, I think it's kind of crazy where Miami had a ton of chances in this game, and they only had 2 shots on target, and their 2 shots on target were goals. Andre Blake didn't make a single save in this game. He wasn't tested that much. Miami were creating a lot of chances, but they weren't putting it on target. And so, yeah, that hurts a little bit that their only 2 shots on target were goals. Credit to them for being clinical. Once they got shots on target, they wind up in the back of the net. I mean, if you're a coach, if you're a Union fan, if the Union did that, you guys wouldn't care how many shots the Union took. If they only had 2 shots on target, you guys would be happy. You guys would take that every time of the week. And Phil Neville said something about yeah, I mean, every single team in the world would take that. If your 2 shots on target are both goals, of course you're going to take that. And we've seen the Union start slow once again in back-to-back weeks. That was an issue 2 years ago. And is it going to be a problem going forward? I don't know. I mean, time will tell. I think it's way too early to overreact. But this was an issue for the Union. And Jim Curtin said exactly that.
Not our sharpest night. Credit to Miami. They came out fast and put us under pressure. The road in this league is always very difficult. We talked about it all week, trying to set the tone. And in some ways, I think we got a little bit humbled tonight, which early in the season can be a good thing. And we have to regroup now quickly and prepare for a Champions League game.
Yeah, and I do think that the Union did get a little humbled because it took the Union 6 games last year on the road until they were finally shut out in that 1-0 defeat at Chicago Fire last June. And the Union, they only lost twice all season on the road by 2+ goals 2 times. And that was FC Cincinnati 3-1, and then Charlotte, they lost 4-0. And they do both of those things. They lose by 2 goals on the night, and they lose their first away game of the season, and they get shut out in their first away game of the season. And so, will that be a trend going forward for the Union? I don't think so. And it hurts after seeing the Union go 7-5-5 on the road last season. Like we've talked about before, that's the most wins the Union have ever had on the road. But like Jim Curtin just said in that clip, it is hard to win in MLS. It is hard to put consistent results on the road together. And you hope that that loss to Miami is humbling to this team, especially for them to go down to El Salvador on Tuesday night, where CONCACAF Champions League, we know it's 2 legs. It's a knockout round competition. And if you don't have more goals than the other team after those 2 games, then you get knocked out. And so you hope the Union are in that mentality where, okay, we weren't really focused on Miami. We're more focused on the game in El Salvador on Tuesday. You hope that's part of the issue. I mean, that shouldn't be an issue. The players should have been focused on Miami, not saying that they weren't, but you could tell that, something was a little bit off from this Union team. They were slow to react, like I said. I mean, they just didn't seem like their normal selves. And again, I just got done telling you guys not to talk about 2022, and here I am comparing this team to 2022. And so it's like, okay, maybe, maybe if I want you guys to stop bringing up 2022, I need to stop bringing up 2022. But there's going to be plenty of episodes throughout the season where we're comparing 2022 to 2023. But regardless, again, I think the point I'm trying to make is credit has to go to Miami. Miami were the better team on the night. I don't think there's anything wrong in saying that. And you saw towards the end of the first half, the Union woke up just like they did against Columbus last weekend. The Union outshot Miami 3-0, outpossessed Miami 67.7 to 32.3, and had a higher passing accuracy of 81% to 69%, all in the final 10 minutes of the half. All that was missing was the goal. Gazdag had a huge chance after Calendar doesn't get enough error on his goal kick. Carranza chests the ball down to Mikhail Ua, and now the Union go on the 2-on-1 counterattack, and Calendar stuffs Gazdag once Mikhail Ua finally gets the ball to Gazdag. And if Gazdag converts that chance, then that probably changes the way that the rest of the game goes, just like the penalty at the end of the half last week changed how the rest of that game was going to go against Columbus. And then you go ahead and look at the start of the second half, a little bit sloppy from Miami coming out of the break, a couple of poor giveaways. And we saw a majority of the half coming out of halftime spent down in Miami's end. Union was setting the tempo just like Miami did in the first half. But again, they couldn't do anything with that pressure they were throwing towards Miami. They couldn't get a goal. And the one big thing that stood out to me from this game was the Union weren't pressing as a team. And when you're not pressing together, you're going to have issues. And Jim Curtin said the exact same thing as well.
I think the message for our group, while Miami played very well, if we have, 5 or 6 guys not have a good night, we're going to get beat. We're a team in that sense that everybody has to be good on the night. And I think our players recognize that. And like I said, we got a little bit humbled tonight, and hopefully it's a good wake-up call for the guys.
5-6 players, I agree, was probably around that. I mean, Bedoya, Bizo, Martinez, Blake, Carranza, Ua, all those guys did not have a great night. But when you're not pressing together, when you guys aren't on the same page, then teams are able to pick you apart with the passing, with their dribbling. You have guys just going in with rash challenges. You have players out of position. And then that diamond's easy to break through, just like we saw in the first goal that Miami scored. And we'll break down these goals here in a bit. But the Union just weren't themselves for whatever reason. And if it sounds like I'm making excuses, I'm not trying to make excuses. I thought Miami were the better team the whole game. I think, yeah, the Union, when they created chances, they couldn't convert. That's an issue. But another issue was when they got into the attacking third of the field against Miami, the final third, I think the Union only completed like 57% of their passes. That's really, really poor. We saw balls overhit. We saw just weak passes. We saw easy giveaways. We saw not great power on shots. And when all of that factors in to the final third of the field, of course it's going to leave you not having success. But at the same time, too, I want to praise Miami because Miami were fantastic in this game. I thought Mota, Pizarro, Gregore, they all ran the midfield. They ran the show against the Union. They dominated them. They made it look way too easy. They said, you guys can play your diamond formation. That doesn't matter to us. We know how to get by it. And getting by it, did they? And Phil Neville had a lot of praise for all three of those players I just mentioned.
They're good friends. They trust each other. They're almost yin and yang in the way that they play. And even last year when we were 4-3-3 and we put Gregore a little bit higher, they were almost like magnets coming back towards each other. So we've got a good partnership in there. I think Mota's composure helps the team, and Gregory's leadership and and the way he drives the team forward helps the team as well. So, and we've got Rodolfo, who's playing some of the best football I've seen him play. Got to say, I thought, when you think about before the game about like sub scenarios, Rodolfo's not the one that we're talking about, and I think that's big for him. I think when we tell him you're going to play 90 minutes, I think that gives him massive confidence, and he's running at the end more than everybody else. And I think with Rodolfo, I think when he shows that kind of energy, it proves that he's got his confidence. I think confidence and that energy go together with Rodolfo, and he's doing fantastically well.
I mean, 2 games in, and again, it's early. So any Miami fans that are listening to the podcast, they might be saying, don't overreact. But 2 games in, Pizarro looks a completely different player than he did when he was last with Miami. I think now he comes into a team where it's not expected of him to be the creator. He's expected to be just another guy, which is huge. You heard reports that he didn't get along with certain players in the team, and then he gets loaned out. Miami apparently were trying to shop him, but they couldn't get offers they wanted and the price range they wanted for Pizarro. And so he's with Miami in the final year of his contract. And, who's to say if he doesn't continue to play like this, who doesn't say that he doesn't resign with Miami? I mean, he's not going to sign on a DP contract again. He's not a DP player. I think if he keeps up this form, I think he's a good TAM level player. And you have him going out, taking players on 1v1, 2 for 2 in successful dribbles, where he's creating chances in a little bit of a deeper area than he was when he was first with Miami, where he was asked to be like that number 10, which he isn't a 10. That's pretty clear. I think right now, Phil Neville has found the perfect position, perfect spot for Pizarro. And we've seen 2 really good performances from him. And Jim Curtin, you guys heard the clip last episode where Mota and Gregore were given praise from Jim Curtin, called them the anchors of that midfield. And that's exactly what happened on Saturday night. Both of them dominated the field. I mean, all 3 of those players really dominated. 2 of those, Pizarro and Mota, got assists on the night. But Gregore, Mota, I mean, they were tackling people left and right. They were constantly recovering the ball and now trying to start the counterattack for Miami. They were quick to react, setting the tempo. And, I mean, if we would have played 90 more minutes, I don't think anything would have changed. I mean, Gregore and Mota looked like they could continue to play for 90 minutes. I mean, they were just so good on the night. Didn't look like they were fatigued. They were having a great time out there and just completely bossed the midfield battle against the Philadelphia Union. So, yeah, a lot of praise for Miami. A really good team, a team that is going to continue to win at home. We'll see what they can do on the road, but 2 games in, 2 shutouts, and 2 wins. You couldn't have asked for more if you're a Miami fan. Fantastic start to the season for Inter Miami. Phil Neville said it, that they wanted to start the season out with 6 points. They get exactly that. And we'll see. We'll see how serious this Inter Miami team is this season. I told you guys, I think they're going to be a playoff team. Could they be a top 4 team? If they play like this, it's very possible. It is very possible, in my opinion. But let's go ahead and talk about my keys to the game I set for this game. I said, number 1, you got to be aware of the counterattacks of Miami. That is a pass, only because none of Miami's goals came off the counterattack. There were a couple of times where Miami tried to break on the counter after they cleared away some of the Union's corners, but Miami overhit those passes. The Union were able to block some passes and stop Miami from counterattacking. We saw Alabadoria get a yellow card for stopping Pizarro from going on the counterattack in the second half. So I'll give the Union a pass there because none of Miami's goals came on the counterattack. The Union were aware of Miami trying to hit on the counter, but Miami didn't need to score goals on the counter. They scored other ways, and that's a credit to Miami for finding different ways to beat the Union. Point number 2, I said set pieces were going to be big in this game. That is 100% a fail, not because the Union conceded a goal on a set piece, because they didn't, not because the Union didn't score off of a set piece, because they didn't, but because the Union were so poor in their deliveries on set pieces, whether it be corners from Kai. I think Kai was like 3 for 13 on crosses in this game. The only successful corner kick came towards the end of the game where Jacob Glesnes gets a header to the ball, hits it right at Calendar, makes the easy save. But whether it be a free kick from Kai Wagner, where they had a fantastic opportunity coming out in the second half, dead center, Kai Wagner hits the ball way over the bar, doesn't put it on target. They were just poor on set pieces all night. And so that is 100% a fail. And then I said 3, intensity for this game. The Union have to be as intense on the road like they were last season. That's a fail. We talked about it. 20 seconds, the Union could have conceded a goal. They were not fast to the ball. They didn't press as a unit. And again, all of that is credit to Miami. Miami dominated this game from the very first minute to the end of the game, and the Union just had no answer for it. And I think Miami are going to be a good team this season in MLS, because you got to be honest with yourself. I know the Union and Miami have only played down in Miami twice. This was the third time. But you honestly couldn't expect the Union just to continue to win or draw in Miami. Like, eventually Miami are going to win at home. And we saw it last season. They won 10 games at home. So they're a dominant team in MLS at home. And they get off to the perfect start in MLS. 2 out of 2 wins at home, 6 points. But let's move on to 3 stars on the night. And again, this was so difficult. There weren't many good performances, not many good players. I guess number 1 on the night, Daniel Gazdag, 2 out of 3 of his shots were on target. And none of his shots were really challenging of Calendar. 8 passes into the final third, 5 out of 8 ground duels won, where it looked like on the night, Daniel Gazdag was the only player that was making anything happen. And he got himself in good spots to get some shots off. But none of them challenged the goalkeeper. None of them challenged Calendar. And the 2 forwards couldn't finish off any of the chances that he was creating for them. He worked his tail off defensively, just like he did offensively, but nothing could come off for Daniel Gazdag against Miami. Number 2, Jack Elliott, 5 out of 7 long balls completed. We saw that long ball to Mikel Uwa, where Uwa gets to the ball first ahead of Calendar. Calendar blocks Mikel's run. Potential penalty? Possibly, but I think because Mikel's touch takes him away from goal, not towards goal, that's why Chris Penso decided no penalty. I know Jim Curtin said, there's a possible penalty, but look, you're not going to get a penalty every single week. I don't think that was a penalty at all. Yes, Calendar's going for the ball. Mikel Uwa beats him to the ball, but I just don't think there was enough in that. I really don't. So Jack Elliott was big, just playing those long balls over the top, trying to get something going because the Union couldn't get anything going through the middle of the field. So how do you get past the midfield of Miami? You play balls over the top and hope that your forwards can get to those passes. He had 2 interceptions and 9 ball recoveries on the night. So yeah, Jack Elliott was fine defensively. And number 3, Kai Wagner, 2 out of 2 tackles won, 4 out of 7 ground duels won, 6 ball recoveries. Nothing Kai Wagner did offensively was good on the night, but what he did defensively I thought was good. That's the only reason Kai Wagner is my 3rd star on the night, because of what he did defensively. What he did offensively was atrocious. It was not good. But defensively, he held his own like he does majority of the time on the left side of the field. None of the goals were his fault on the night. But offensively, yeah, Kai Wagner's got to get better on his set piece delivery. And that free kick, yeah, I'm disappointed. I mean, you couldn't have been in a better spot for a free kick than what Kai Wagner was in. But let's go ahead, break down the first goal of the night. So this goal came in the 32nd minute, courtesy of John. So we have Andre Blake loft the ball off field, and Julian Carranza loses the header to Gregore. We have John and Pizarro winning their balls, in the air. Nobody is challenging Pizarro once the ball finally falls to him. You have Bedoya get dribbled by. You have Liam Flock get dribbled by. And Liam Flock puts in a challenge, but he doesn't get the ball. It falls kindly to John. And then he's able to just have a shot from distance. Nothing Andre Blake could have done. I think he was screened a little bit by his players. Yes, you expect Andre Blake to do better, but I think he was screened. I think if Andre Blake would have seen that a little bit earlier, I think we probably would have seen better positioning from Andre Blake. But yeah, it's poor. I mean, Pizarro just dribbles by the diamond. The diamond just completely non-existent. You have Joseph Martinez making a good run where, okay, the center backs aren't going to go step to the ball because they think that Joseph Martinez might get this pass. You have the midfielders. They're the ones that should have been stepping, should have won this ball. Jose Martinez is at the top of the 18, just standing there. And by the time that the ball falls to John, just nobody's closing him down. And it's disappointing that Andre Blake couldn't make that save. It was a great shot, low shot with a lot of pace, great accuracy on it. But this all collapses because the midfield just can't get the ball off of Pizarro. He dribbles by Bedoya and Liam Flock, like I said. And then in the second goal of the night, courtesy of Robert Taylor in the 77th minute, we have Bizo, who's in a 1v1 situation versus him. Miami goes from right to left where Taylor gets on the ball. Taylor's just going to go ahead, slow down the ball. Bizo's keeping him in front of him, which he's doing a good job. And so because of that, Taylor's going to go ahead, reset, pass the ball to Mota. You have Pizarro making a run, a diagonal run, towards the corner flag. And so Jose Martinez is going to follow that run. But nobody picks up Mota, who then sends his pass back to Robert Taylor. Torres could have done a better job here, putting pressure on the ball. You have Bedoya also making a run towards Pizarro. And Bizo, again, he's the one who's supposed to be tracking Taylor. And by the time that Mota passes this to Taylor, he takes a fantastic first touch, a chest, down to his foot, hits it first time on the volley. And fantastic. Absolutely fantastic strike. That is going to be a contender for goal of the season for Miami. But just bad communication from Ale Bedoya, bad communication from Bizo, where nobody marks him. Nobody marks Taylor, makes the run off of Bizo. Bedoya could have done a better job at that. Martinez, to his credit, leaves his guy on Pizarro when he sees that Taylor's getting the ball. But it's a great first touch, a great chest down by Taylor. And what a volley it was. Like I said, that's going to be a goal of the season contender. And again, nothing Andre Blake could have done there. Two really good goals by Inter Miami, and their two shots that they had on target were both goals. But let's go ahead and talk about that new segment, which is where I talk about the referee performance. Renee Turner wanted me to bring this up, said, not enough people give credit to the referees. Too many people beat down referees. And so I'll give you guys my rating for Chris Penso, where I'll give stats from last season, how he did against Inter Miami, and kind of give my overall thoughts. So if this is something you guys want me to continue doing in future podcast episodes, let me know. If it's something you guys don't want, then we can also scrap that idea altogether. But last season, Chris Penso was the head referee in 24 matches in MLS, where he averaged 5.4 yellow cards per game. He refereed that Nashville game against the Philadelphia Union, where it was their new stadium opener. In that match, he showed 7 yellow cards, 3 to the Union, 4 to Nashville. He gave a penalty against the Union that Leal scored to tie the game that ended 1-1. And there was 26 fouls given in that game. And he gave 3 fouls to Nashville before their first yellow card, and he allowed the Union to foul Nashville 10 times before they got their first yellow card. And so last night's game against Inter Miami, there were 6 fouls before the Union finally got their first yellow card on the night. And I get it. I get why Penso gave the yellow card to Leon Flock, because the Union are getting a little bit frustrated. They're having a little bit heavy challenges on players. And so all right, I let you guys get away with fouls, but we've really got to start setting the standards right here. And I'm going to give a yellow card. And then we see a few minutes later, Jose Martinez gets a yellow card because he's out of position, so he throws a second ball on the field. And when you do that, you 100% are going to get a yellow card for that. You impeded the play. Bedoya gets a yellow card in this game, like I mentioned, for his foul on Pizarro to stop the counterattack in the second half. On the night in the Miami game, there was 31 fouls given between the two teams, 17 to the Union, 14 to Miami, 3 yellows, like I just mentioned, to the Union, and 1 to Miami. I think overall, I did see a lot of people upset with the way that Penso officiated this game. 31 fouls, yeah, it's a little bit, but when you compare the amount of yellow cards that he gave last season in the Nashville game, 7, he only gave 4 this game, and he averaged last season 5.4 yellow cards per game, and so that average was down in this game where he only gave 4. The only thing I'm not a fan of was 31 fouls, but because he gave 31 fouls, he could have gave a lot more yellow cards. Yes, he is yellow card happy. Yes, there are times where he tries to make the game about himself, but I thought he officiated this game pretty well. When there was chances to play the advantage, he played the advantage. Yes, there was a moment where he gets in the way of Daniel Gazdag when Gazdag had a great opportunity to shoot the ball, so Gazdag then had to get out of Penso's way and then get the shot off. But no, I think he controlled this game pretty well. The yellow cards that he gave out, all of them were yellows, in my opinion, especially the Martinez and Bedoya's. And like I mentioned, the whole reason why Leon Flock got a yellow card was to say, look, we've got to get this under control, and so I'm going to give a yellow card. And Leon Flock wasn't happy that he got a yellow card. I get it. But he had to tell them, look, we're going to issue this yellow card and let you know that you can't get away with those hard challenges. I've let you get away with 6 fouls prior, but now we're going to just get control of this game and issue a yellow card to Leon Flock. So overall, I don't think Chris Penso had a bad game when you compare his numbers from last season to what he did Saturday night in the Miami Union game. Was it a great performance calling 31 fouls? No, but I don't think he slowed down the speed of play all that much, right? There was still plenty game to be played where there was a good flow to the game. Just the Union couldn't keep up with the flow of the game because Miami set a tempo that the Union weren't used to. I think Chris Penso deserves credit for when there was head injuries, he stopped the play immediately, which is what referees should do. If he suspects somebody has a concussion, stop the play right away. Yeah, it sucks if a team's on the counterattack or whatnot, but you can't take any chances with a potential head injury. And so, yeah, I do think Chris Penso had a good performance on the night. Some Union fans I know aren't going to agree with that whatsoever. But let's go ahead and end the last segment on the night on Blunder of the Week. And there was 3 really good possibilities for Blunder of the Week for me this weekend. With number 1, it so easily could have gone to Manchester United for quitting in their team's 7-0 humiliating defeat to Liverpool. Because there is nothing that I hate more in soccer than seeing players quit in their teams. because I've been on plenty of teams when I played soccer where teammates would just lay down, they would start running, just let people run by them and not care. There is nothing that I hate more than that feeling. Just watching people shrug their shoulders, just not care when other teammates are working their tails off. And I hate that so much because I was never the best player on the field. I was not a great soccer player. The only thing that I was good at, and I have no problem admitting this, was running. My stamina was really good. I thought I was a decent passer of the ball, and I could put in a nice crunching tackle every now and then. But was I a good shooter? Was I a good dribbler? No, I was not. And I hated playing with pressure at me. I would panic sometimes. So I have no problem admitting that. But the one thing I never did, I never gave up. From the first minute to the last minute, I was always running. And nothing pissed me off more than watching teammates just let their guy run by them. And now I'm going out of position to go chase the guy who has the ball because my teammate's not doing his job. And we saw plenty of that by Manchester United against Liverpool. And yeah, maybe part of that's because United are playing a ton of games, like 3 games a week. They're tired, I get it, right? But if you're not going to give in the effort, then call for a substitute a lot earlier than when substitutions were being made. It takes skill to be good. But having heart and character does not take skill. Giving no effort is inexcusable. And that's what we saw a lot of from Manchester United players against Liverpool. Number 2, I could have went with the play that Charlotte gave up to St. Louis City's Klaus, where St. Louis get an easy goal, once again, back-to-back weeks. Charlotte try to play out of the back. Bad back pass to the goalkeeper, straight to Klaus. Klaus is able to make it 3-1. It's a little weird that St. Louis has now been gifted 2 bizarre goals that you hardly see in soccer. So that could have been Blunder of the Week, but I am not going with that. Because Blunder of the Week is going to go to Bovista from the Portuguese League because, as Tom Bogert reported, sources told him that FC Dallas have still not received any payment from Bovista for the transfer of Reggie Cannon. That happened in September of 2020. We're in 2023. And FC Dallas has yet to get any payment for Reggie Cannon. The case went to the Court of Arbitration for Sports, who ruled in favor of Dallas. CAS, we'll call them CAS from now on. They set the deadline for a payment, a fee plus interest, because Bovista never paid. And Bovista did not pay on that deadline. And of course, FIFA can get involved. There could be transfer bans. There could be other penalties like point deductions. They could get relegated. There could be a whole bunch of penalties going to Bovista. But not paying anything. And when there was a deadline and you still don't pay. Like, if you're broke, right? Like, why are you buying players? Like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad for Dallas that they sell one of their promising players in Reggie Cannon, who's at a terrible team in Portugal, mind you. So Reggie Cannon's not in a great situation, and Dallas isn't in a great situation because they take the best offer that they get, and that offer they get, they don't even get paid for it. So Bovista are getting my Blunder of the Week for being broke. And so if you guys enjoy this podcast episode, I hope you guys are following on social media at Free Kick Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, wherever you get the podcast, The Free Kick. Check out the website, thefreekick.net. And yeah, this was a lot of fun, even though the Union lost to Miami. Blunder of the Week. I'm glad a lot of you guys said you want Blunder of the Week back. And it's always good looking at the not so good in soccer. And it's great when we have choices. And hopefully you guys like those choices. As always, if you guys have recommendations, hit me up on social media and I'll take a look at it and we'll throw it in the list and mention it. And then I'll decide from there what gets Blunder of the Week. Because all three of those that I mentioned, the Manchester United-Liverpool game, the St. Louis-Charlotte game, and then Bovista. So many good choices this week. So thank you for the people that reached out and said, keep doing Blunder of the Week. Like I've told you guys before, I love being transparent. So we probably won't do a review episode for the Alianza game. I don't know if we'll get a match preview or match recap episode up on the website because I want to focus on the Chicago Fire game that's coming up this Saturday. And we should have a returning guest to the podcast for Chicago Fire. So that episode should be a lot of fun. Supposed to record that episode on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, I'll probably release that episode for you guys. So fingers crossed everything goes to plan and you guys get to hear from a familiar voice, one of my favorite people in all of MLS. So let's hope for the best on Tuesday. And with that said, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.